Thank you, Stuart. I'm happy to be last, partially because I often am in this situation where I bring gender balance to a rather august panel here. So thank you for that privilege once again. I was going to speak a little bit about the sun, because really everything we are doing for nutrition is under the sun. And not to push the pun too much further, the sun is not a project, it's not a program, it is a movement. It really is a movement that needs to be nurtured. The sun is rising, despite many dark clouds that we've seen in the recent past. And interestingly so, it is rising particularly quickly in the early riser countries. And I'm going to stop the puns very soon when I say I hope the early riser countries will make hay while the sun shines. That's a borrowed pun. I will focus primarily on one issue, which is again a sunrise issue, which is multisectorality. I think nobody in this room needs to be convinced about the fact that we need to work across sectors. Everybody believes in it. But as Lauren said earlier today, how much evidence have we seen that multisectoral projects work? Very little. How much evidence have we seen that actions in other sectors can deliver results for nutrition? And I really want to focus on the issue of results, because that's the title of this session. I picked up 3 key words from the title: prioritizing, scaling up, and outcomes. And I really will speak to these 3 particular words. They're, I think, very important words. So, multisectorality, we all believe in it. Yet we haven't seen very much evidence that we can deliver. It may be because we don't know how to do it. It may be because I sometimes call it a faith-based following in multisectorality. I think there's a lot of faith in this room and elsewhere around this issue. Faith is a very good thing, and we heard David Beckman speak earlier today. But with faith, we also heard Michael Anderson speak about evidence. I think a movement is powerful when it can be bolstered by a combination of faith and evidence. And that's how we hope that the Sun movement will move, the combination of faith and evidence. Faith-based evidence, that's correct. I hope that we will prioritize on the basis of evidence of what works, because ultimately we are responsible for outcomes and results, but also that we can scale up, at least in the shorter term, those interventions for which we have delivery systems. We can't aspire to scale up things where we don't have delivery systems until we've invested some research in the delivery systems. So that's something we want to be thinking about. The evidence review, the systematic review that Lawrence spoke about, it really is the first time that such a review has been done. But if I may push on that a little bit, I think the review is great, but it stops at saying there's no evidence. There's very little evidence, essentially, that actions in agriculture can have an impact on nutrition. That's the take-home message. And that can be a little bit pessimistic, especially for this enthusiastic group, and we don't want to go away with that message. So we've actually been working a little bit, pushing hard on that with a lot of guidance from Per Pinstrup-Andersen, who I see is sitting in the back over here. We are trying to develop what we call, we're trying to push it further and say, if we could really actually plan programs and projects so that we explicitly include nutrition objectives right from the beginning when these projects are being designed, then that's the way we will get impact. In the last financial year, the World Bank invested approximately $4 billion in agriculture and food security investments. We invested approximately $9 billion in social safety, social protection programs, much of it for social safety nets. The opportunity to make a difference through all of these is huge in terms of scaling up and achieving results, but it can only be done if we can push this a little bit more and provide guidance to our teams on what should be done based on evidence and how to do it. The how-to is extremely, extremely important. I know I'm running out of time, so let me emphasize just a couple of other very quick points. As we are developing these guidance notes, we are realizing that it's not such an easy thing to do. First, as has been referred to in many of these conversations over the last day and a half, you can include nutritional considerations, but it's often a trade-off, sometimes with economic considerations. Lots of people know we want to invest in women's participation in agriculture, but what does that do from a nutrition perspective? It takes women's time away from childcare. What impact will it have on nutrition? Potentially some negative unintended consequences there. Similarly, everybody here in this room knows better than I why we should be investing in smallholder farmers and smallholder farms from a nutrition perspective. But from an economic perspective, and correct me if I speak wrong, from an economic perspective, you want to be investing much more in the larger farm holders because that's where you get the quicker bang for your economic buck. Similarly, if you go on and on, I mean, there are many such issues for which you have to make trade-offs. I learned this morning that there are trade-offs between investing in big fish and small fish as well. So there are trade-offs everywhere, and those trade-offs are not easy trade-offs to make. I think we're in a situation where we're all convinced that it is possible to do it, but it's not going to be an easy thing to do. And I think at the very least, we should focus on a do no harm principle, but we would hopefully go beyond that and focus on maximizing nutrition outcomes. I'm going to make two other very quick points. First, to say that as we think about these sorts of trade-offs, we are starting to experiment and go into some unknown territories. Working with the Ministry of Finance in Canada, we're trying to develop some innovative advanced market commitment type of pull mechanisms for nutrition and agriculture. And the push is, again, to bring those things together. We don't have very many ideas. If anybody has ideas, please share them with us. We're struggling with what ideas to put forward there. And last, I want to say, as we take this work forward, we have very high expectations to live up to from our president. And I'm going to read one sentence from President Zelik's New Year's message to all of us. He said, "In 2011, I hope we can gain more momentum in the fusion of our work on nutrition with food security." Thank you.